Welcome to Audit Archive, where we run you through some of the most questionable and rather atrocious police encounters. Today, we're looking at a case where several police officers broke into the home of an innocent family and terrorized them for no reason. On April 6, 2023, several police officers from the New Haven Police Department were dispatched to an address where they were given instructions to conduct a raid as part of a child pornography investigation into 35-year-old suspect Tim Yurgo. The officers were told that the suspect was residing in an apartment on East Street in New Haven, Connecticut, and they were also informed that the suspect's apartment was on the second floor. This minor detail is to be noted as it plays a big part in this botched raid. Once the officers located the correct apartment building, they entered and began climbing up the stairs to locate the suspect's apartment as instructed. However, the officers completely disregarded the need to make sure that they were on the correct floor, and as a result, went all the way up to the third floor instead of the second floor. At this point, the officers were not only on the wrong floor, but were also preparing to raid the apartment of an innocent family who was just asleep with no idea as to what was coming. Shortly after planning the execution of the raid right outside the apartment, one of the officers knocked on the door and identified themselves before another officer made use of a battering ram, otherwise known as an enforcer, to break the door down and barge into the apartment with guns drawn.
Police with a search warrant! Police with a search warrant!
According to a research report released by the Connecticut General Assembly, officers have the duty to knock and announce before they enter a home to conduct a search pursuant to a warrant. This means that they must tell those inside a house something to the effect that they are officers and intend to search the home. The report also states that any slight force officers use to enter the home will be construed as breaking and will trigger the knock and announce rule. Taking this into account, one could argue that the officers were in the wrong here. But it must be noted that there are a few exemptions, one of which is known as a no-knock warrant, which allows police to force their way into a residence or other premise with the element of surprise, as stated in another report. It is unclear whether the officers had the lawful authority to breach the apartment as they did. However, the officers definitely had the duty and responsibility to make sure they were on the correct floor. Soon after barging into the wrong apartment, the officers first entered a bedroom with a daughter inside, who was clearly startled by the sudden commotion. Upon interacting with her, officers immediately realized that they were in the wrong apartment, as she told the officers that the suspects they were looking for was in fact a neighbor who lived downstairs. Regardless, the officers continued to search the entire apartment, while one officer remained with the daughter and informed her of the search warrant.
Hey! Let me see your hands. Let me see your hands. Door that way. Door.
What?
Police with a search warrant. Stand by. What? Is there anybody else inside this room with you?
No. No. Why? Why?
Where's Tim?
Who?
Tim. Your girl, Tim.
The neighbor downstairs?
So he's downstairs.
Meanwhile, the other officers scoured the remaining rooms of the apartment. Amidst this, the mother, Stacy Wazenter, was also confronted and immediately placed in handcuffs without being told exactly what was going on, other than the fact that there was a search warrant, which they technically didn't have since they weren't in the right apartment to begin with.
Hands. No, hold on, one second. Yeah, I'll tell you what's going on in just 1 second, okay? We have a search warrant, all right? We'll explain everything.
Kitchen's clear.
My son is in the room.
Okay.
Miss Wazenter was clearly in shock as she cried and told the officers that her son was sleeping, and then also asked if he was awake. Luckily, the son remained asleep throughout this ordeal and did not have to be left traumatized like the daughter and mother. It is to be noted that this incident took place early in the morning at around 5 a.m., so one could easily imagine the fear and confusion that the innocent family was going through at that moment. By now, since the officers realized that they had unlawfully barged into the wrong apartment, they finally released Miss Wazenter from handcuffs and started a discussion with her and her daughter about the confusion they had. Miss Wazenter told them that the floor they were on was considered the third floor rather than the second, and that it had always been stated as the third floor, even in official letters and documents that she received at the apartment. In response to this, one of the officers apologized to Miss Wazenter and her daughter and told them that the officers shouldn't have knocked on their door like that. While the officer described the entire situation to Miss Wazenter, a few other officers were downstairs on the correct floor and finally searched the actual apartment that they had planned to raid in the first place. The department later reported that they found everything they needed for the investigation. Regardless, the officer also told Miss Wazenter that the department would call her landlord and get the door fixed as soon as possible. He also wrote down his name, personal phone number, and work number, telling Miss Wazenter that she should feel free to call him anytime in case she needed any help after this incident.
Collecting stuff. We're gonna call your landlord right after. Probably call him now, actually, to let him know about the damage. Provide you with a case number for the search warrant execution, because obviously none of this is your fault. It's all our fault. So we'll make sure it gets fixed as soon as possible. Hopefully today we'll get him here to come take care of that.
Soon after the entire ordeal, Mayor Justin Ellicker of New Haven said in a statement that, understandably, it can be pretty traumatic when police is all of a sudden in your apartment, adding that, "We're very, very sorry for the fact that the police department entered her home and chose the wrong door." Then, on April 10th, 4 days after the incident, Mayor Ellicker and Police Chief Carl Jacobson stressed that the reason behind the officer's rash behavior was a serious case, and they thought that the actual suspect could have easily destroyed some crucial evidence. Mayor Ellicker added that, "Any criminal activity involving the safety of our children we take very, very seriously," while Chief Jacobson made it clear that he opened an internal affairs investigation into the handling of the raid that morning. Lastly, Chief Jacobson also said that, "We're not happy that we hit the wrong door, but in watching the video, the officers and detectives did a great job talking to her and making it right." This statement implies that Chief Jacobson does not think that it was much of a big deal barging into an innocent family's home with guns drawn and potentially traumatizing them for the rest of their lives. In fact, Miss Wazenter told News 8 that, "I'm still shaken up. It just looked like something straight out of a movie. When they have their weapons drawn and flashlights. It was dark. It was 6 a.m. She then stated that, "I'm usually a strong person. I usually shake a lot of things off. I'm usually strong-minded and strong-willed. But now, I feel like I need to talk to a therapist. I need someone to help me unload all of this because I don't know how to do this by myself." These statements prove that the ordeal did in fact cause great trouble for Miss Wazenter. So, as a result, Miss Wazenter filed a lawsuit against the New Haven Police Department and city officials, claiming that she was injured, suffered emotional distress, and incurred costs following the raid. Miss Wazenter's lawsuit asserts that the search warrant failed to meet constitutional standards because it did not adequately specify the location that was to be searched. Also, the lawsuit requests a jury trial and does not specify what Miss Wazenter is seeking in damages. The outcome of the legal action taken by Miss Wazenter is yet to be decided, and the internal investigation opened at the New Haven Police Department remains in progress. Be sure to check out our previous video where we cover another outrageous police encounter.